Alright, welcome to example 1 for sine and cosine. We have an example 1 where it says you have to solve for the unknown sides. For this yellow triangle right here, we have to always start by labeling what sides are. So we have our focus angle right here, so that's 30 degrees, and across from that is our opposite. Here's my 90-degree triangle, a 90-degree angle. Across from that is my hypotenuse, and the last side is called the adjacent. And now, at this point, they want the opposite because that's the unknown side. And what's given to us is the hypotenuse. So now I have to decide which formula I should use. So I'm going to write out SOHCAHTOA here. SOHCAHTOA. And I ask myself, which formula has both opposite and hypotenuse? Certainly not tangent because it has opposite and adjacent. Cosine has adjacent and hypotenuse. It's sine, which has both opposite and hypotenuse, the stuff that we're looking for. So I'm going to write out the formula now, which is sine of theta, the given angle, is opposite over hypotenuse. And my opposite in this case is going to be, replace the opposite with x. Hypotenuse is 10. And sine of our focus angle, which is 30. Now, what's really interesting is that many of you guys, hopefully, I'm hoping, that you can do this question even without even doing it in this process. This is actually the very first example in the previous video. For every 30-degree triangle, do we know the relationship between opposite and hypotenuse? Let's see if you guys remember. If we plug this in your calculator, sine of 30 degrees, so sine 30, boom, boom, we get 0.5. And again, make sure your calculator is in degree mode. And what 0.5 means is that this ratio here of opposite over hypotenuse is 50%. This right here is half of this length. So right now, you can just probably do the math. If that's half of that, the answer should be 5. And so that's what's going to happen here. If we solve for x here by multiplying both sides by 10 times 0.5, we get half of 10 is 5. So therefore, this opposite is 5 meters. Okay? All right, let's try example B here. We have a 60-degree triangle. We have 15 meters here and a y here. Again, what's the very first step? You should probably write that down. Label the sides. So there's another step before that. It's choose focus angle. So we have to choose a focus angle, otherwise we can't even choose which one's opposite. So here, in this case, we're going to choose the angle that they gave us, which is 60 degrees. So now that I have my focus angle, I'm going to choose the sides here. This is going to be my opposite. And across from my 90-degree symbol is going to be my hypotenuse. And the last one is going to be my adjacent. Now that I've labeled my sides, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to choose the appropriate trig ratio. Or trigonometric ratio if I didn't want to be doing short forms. So in order to choose a trig ratio, I'm going to write out SOHCAHTOA. And I'm going to highlight what they gave us, which is the adjacent, and what they want, which is the hypotenuse. So the only one that has both adjacent and hypotenuse is cosine. So that's what I'm going to write down right now. So cosine of a focus angle is adjacent over hypotenuse. And I do know what that focus angle is. It's 60 degrees. Adjacent is 15. And hypotenuse is going to be y. Now in this case, we can't solve for y when it's on the denominator. Over here is easier because x was on the numerator. When y is on the denominator, the first thing we should do is really get rid of fractions, which is kind of what we did over here. See, we have it divided by 10. The first thing we did was multiply by 10. We got rid of those fractions. That's what we're going to do here. We're going to multiply both sides by y. So y times cosine 60 equals 15. So let's label the steps here. After we chose a trig ratio, we plugged it in. Then we got rid of fractions. In both cases, we got rid of the fractions, multiplying by 10 and multiplying by y. Now we need to solve for y. I need to isolate for y here. Now that it's on a numerator, I need to do the opposite of multiplying by 60, which is dividing by cosine 60. Now, you could do this first, put this on your calculator first, but I don't want to carry all those decimals and write them all out. And I want to be as accurate as possible. So I'm going to keep it as cosine 60. I'm going to keep it as this expression. So I know this is just a number. So the opposite of multiplying by this number is dividing by this number, which is cosine 60. So y equals to 15 divided by cosine 60. Divided by cosine 60 is going to be exactly 30 degrees. Not 30 degrees, sorry, not degrees. 30 meters. So y, which is my hypotenuse, which is 30 meters. Curious. Let's take a look at this a little bit. Before I go into my curious statement here, after we get rid of fraction, we solved for the unknown. All right, this is a very curious situation. Do you see how this 15 is half of this 30? But this is a 60-degree triangle. What's interesting is this triangle and this triangle are similar triangles. Why is that? Let's take a look at what this angle is. Take a look at this triangle. 180 minus 90, which is going to be 90, minus another 30. This will be 60. This is a 60. This is 90. 90 plus 60 is 150. 180 minus 150, this will be 30. Remember, if I were to change this to be my focus angle, this now becomes my opposite. And this opposite, if this is my focus angle, is actually half the hypotenuse. Okay, so there's something very interesting happening that I need you guys to think about. Sine of 30 and cosine 60 are kind of related. Okay, now that's higher level thinking. The most basic thing that I need you to understand is being able to solve for the unknowns and using these steps: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In both these cases, we chose our focus angle. In both those cases, we labeled those sides according to that focus angle. Then we chose some trig ratios based on what they gave us and what we were given. So in this case, we were given opposite and hypotenuse. We had to use sine. In this case, we had to use adjacent and hypotenuse. We had to use cosine because that's the one that has both adjacent and hypotenuse. Then we plugged in the appropriate values, so theta for 60, theta for 30. Plugged in our adjacent and hypotenuse, or opposite and hypotenuse in this case. And then you solved, by getting rid of the fractions and then solving. And then you got the values. Okay? So that's the normal stuff, basic knowledge stuff. The thinking stuff, which is what separates us from the machines, is understanding why these are two similar triangles and why in this case the cosine 60, there's a relationship between cosine 60 and sine 30. So I need you guys to think a little bit more carefully about that as we move to the next video. So click, and we'll see you in the next video.